Welcome back, focused learners. So I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer, because we're decoding some genuinely fascinating concepts around dark psychology and strategic power dynamics. If you've ever felt like your good nature is actually a liability, or maybe you're constantly bending over backward for people who barely even acknowledge your effort, well, you are exactly in the right place. Let's just dive right into this and look at how shifting from acting nice to playing smart can literally revolutionize how you navigate the world. Right off the bat, ask yourself this brutal question. Why does being nice actually cost you power? It's the ultimate people-pleaser trap. So many of us are taught from a super young age to just accommodate, right? To yield and prioritize everyone else's comfort way over our own boundaries. But the really painful reality our source material highlights is that constantly defaulting to nice almost always leads to feeling chronically overlooked or worse, blatantly disrespected, both at work and in our personal lives. Okay, so here's the core issue. According to the source, confusing the desperate desire to be liked with the actual strategy to be respected is the exact reason most people give away their power. See, being liked, that's all about emotional comfort. Being respected, though, is about setting hard boundaries and demonstrating undeniable competence. When you spend your energy chasing likability, you're literally handing your personal power over to the opinions of everyone around you. To navigate this, we really need to objectively define the Machiavellian mindset. And hey, this isn't about some empty hustle culture motivation or acting like a comic book villain. Not at all. It is a highly applied, real-world power strategy. It's a psychological framework that blends top-tier emotional intelligence with incredibly sharp strategy, so you can actively understand and respectfully influence all the human behavior happening around you. And, these concepts aren't just flashy internet fads. They are deeply, deeply rooted in Niccolo Machiavelli's historic text, The Prince. What we're decoding today is distilled directly from his core chapters on human nature, specifically chapters 3, 6, 7, 8, and a handful of later ones, modernized for today's world. We're talking about foundational, centuries-old wisdom here. It honestly all boils down to one brutal truth from our source. Most people lose power because they confuse being liked with being respected. Seriously, if you can just internalize the massive difference between those two desires, you're already halfway to completely redesigning your mindset. Which brings us to strategy 1, detach from external approval. Let's look at how to stop worrying about the applause of the crowd and start tuning into our own internal compass. So to actually detach, we first have to recognize what's holding us back. The source identifies this as the absolute trap of subconscious programming. Basically, we are programmed by society to crave external validation. It's exactly why you might say yes to taking on extra work when you're already totally burnt out, just to avoid disappointing a coworker. It's this massive mental block that subconsciously chains us to the opinions of others, making us super predictable and, frankly, easy to manipulate. Chasing validation is just a losing game. It leaves you totally exhausted. But practicing strategic detachment, that keeps you calm, unbothered, and relentlessly focused on your own goals. Shedding that deep need for approval is the vital, non-negotiable first step toward true mental dominance. Now, to pull off this kind of detachment, the source actually recommends engaging in Jungian shadow work. Sounds intense, but it really just means confronting the repressed, hidden parts of your subconscious, the deep-seated insecurities that desperately crave to be liked at all costs. By facing these internal blocks head-on, you can finally stop acting out of fear and start actively redesigning your mind. Moving right along to strategy 2, master tension and leverage. It's time to figure out how you actually handle yourself when you're interacting with others. Let me ask you, who controls the tension in the room when you walk in? Just think about your recent interactions at the office or even in your personal relationships. If you are always the one breaking the silence or quickly apologizing first just to make things comfortable for people who don't even respect you, well, you are freely giving away your power. The thing is, every single interaction is a strategic opportunity. The typical nice reaction is highly emotional, very reactionary, and just way too accommodating. The smart strategy, however, is deeply intentional. You shouldn't just impulsively react. You need to intentionally decide exactly how to respond to maximize your leverage in that moment. The core takeaway here is absolutely crucial. You must build strategic leverage in every single interaction. When you master your emotional intelligence, it allows you to dictate the tension in the room, rather than just being a victim to it. You literally become the active architect of the conversation, instead of just a passive participant crossing their fingers and hoping everyone gets along. That brings us to strategy 3, control your public perception. We've talked about internal detachment and one-on-one leverage. Now we've got to face the stark reality of how the broader world actually views you. According to the Machiavellian worldview presented in our source, we have to face the truth about human nature and perception. And yeah, that truth is kind of brutal. Human nature dictates that controlling what people see is vastly more powerful in the real world than what you actually feel. People are judging you on your outward actions and the specific image you project, not your internal, hidden good intentions. To manage this perception effectively, you first have to overcome your own cognitive biases. You know, those sneaky mental shortcuts that make you falsely assume everyone can plainly see your good intentions. You do this through deep analytical thinking and by cultivating a profound, realistic understanding of actual human nature, rather than the idealized version we all wish existed. This strategy totally redefines emotional intelligence. Instead of using EQ just to be super empathetic and constantly absorb everyone else's problems, you use it as a radar. You use it to read people instantly, map out their hidden motives, and anticipate their next moves before they even make them. It's a real game changer. All right, finally, strategy 4, redesign your mindset. This is exactly where all this theory turns into permanent, real-world behavioral change. The psychological path to this transformation happens in 4 distinct steps. First up, identify those mental blocks. Step 2, apply that deep shadow work. Step 3, really begin thinking with Machiavellian intention. And step 4, completely rewire your brain for clarity and growth. This is literally the ultimate formula to go from merely nice to dangerously smart. The beautiful paradox here is that by stripping away that desperate need to be liked, you actually undergo this profound personal transformation. You discover the objective truth about the world, and even more importantly, you uncover your true identity, completely unburdened by the heavy expectations of everyone else. You become incredibly authentic, simply because you're no longer playing a role just to keep the peace. And keep in mind, these dark power dynamics, they aren't new at all. The Prince was published way back in 1532. These exact strategies for controlling perception and mastering leverage have governed human behavior for nearly 500 years. The game hasn't changed one bit, honestly, only the players have. As we wrap this explainer up, it is absolutely vital to remember the source's central warning. This is an objective look at mental warfare. It is designed for survival, for extreme effectiveness, and for commanding respect. This is applied power strategy, folks, not just some fleeting motivational quote you double tap and scroll past on your feed. So, I want to leave you with one final, provocative thought. How will you balance your true, authentic identity with these Machiavellian power dynamics out there in the real world? Can you command respect and control the tension without losing yourself completely? I challenge you to take this focused learning into your very next interaction and just watch how the dynamics shift. Keep learning out there, and I'll catch you next time.